What's up everybody, it's Bluepoint Gaming here. So, I don't know about you all, but I had been looking forward to the Shadow of the Colossus remake pretty much as the first real big PS4 exclusive coming out this year. And maybe that's a bit unfair of course to do, because it is a remake of an old game, but at the same time, I had personally never ever experienced Shadow of the Colossus before. I hadn't played the PS2 version, neither did I have, had I played the PlayStation 3 remaster either, so you know, in the meantime, I've just been hearing all these great stories about it, that it was this massive, you know, awesome classic pretty much that I sadly missed out on, like I said. And so, when I saw that they announced the remake for this game at E3 last year, made by Bluepoint Games, who I put a lot of faith in, while at the same time we saw how amazing it looked, I was instantly like, yes, I can finally see what I exactly missed out on, and if it was worth the hype, right? So, I was really looking forward to this game. So a week ago I received my review copy from Sony. They always want me to be very sure that I point this out, so there you go. I've been playing it in the last week already, and I can tell you right now, I've beaten the game like 3 times already, and I've been having an absolute blast with it. This game is fantastic. Whether you've never played this game before like me and are in for a completely new experience, it's totally worth it. And even if you have played, you know, the old game, this is completely what you want out of a remake for a game. Because I went back and I watched some of the footage of the original version, of course, and the difference is pretty mind-blowing, especially, of course, on a graphical level, right? So yeah, let's actually get into the review. Let's talk about it. So, I always start off my reviews talking a bit about the story. And I feel like Shadow of the Colossus, the story that it tells, it's done in a very poetic and ambiguous kind of way, you know? We know that from Fumito Ueda, of course, who also made The Last Guardian, but I even feel like Last Guardian was actually a different type of game, because that one was more about the experience and the connection between the characters, and it did tell quite a story nonetheless, whereas this game I feel is more than ever focused on the gameplay, but there is a story that is being told, which is that you are this sort of nameless character who enters this land. You enter it on your horse, you have a girl on the back of your horse who is actually dead, and you meet this godlike spirit pretty much that is that is, you know, that finds itself in the land, who tells you that he can revive your girlfriend or sister or whatever it is, if you do something for him, which is that you gotta beat these 16 massive colossi, right? So that's pretty much how the game opens, with a 15-minute cutscene, and it leaves all those questions completely open until the very end. What I liked about it is that it's not a completely ambiguous type of story where, you know, it doesn't tell you whatsoever what was going on and why you were doing it, because the ending ultimately does clear up a lot of it. So I really could appreciate that aspect about it, because some games, you know, they just try to intentionally be ambiguous the whole way through, don't tell you anything, and then I'm just like, well, that might as well just be a lazy developer who doesn't even know themselves what exactly the story of this game is, right? So, like I said, I like that aspect about it, but the whole middle part is simply you playing the game and kind of interpreting it, you know, yourself, and coming up with your own story, I guess, for the world that you find yourself in. So, I did really enjoy the story aspect of it in the beginning and at the end, but it's just not a very huge deal in this game, I would say, personally. Next up, we go to the presentation of the game, and of course that's one of those areas where it absolutely shines. This is, simply said, what you want out of a remaster or remake. Going forward, I do not want to see any, you know, other remaster that doesn't do it like this, because, like, this sets a completely new bar, and Bluepoint has done a phenomenal job here. Of course, you can already judge it by yourself looking at the gameplay, but it looks absolutely stunning. Of course, the scale of this game is really like one of the you know, the big things about it that makes it stand out so much, and that's still super impressive here. The boss battles themselves in scale as well, of course, while the graphical detail, especially in motion, you know, traveling on your horse and stuff, it looks stunning, and it's just a world that's so unique, so calm, very subtle and stuff. It's just a joy to explore and walk around in and ride around in and stuff, finding new areas. Even though there's not a lot to do, it's something that's just breathtaking simply by the way it looks and that experience that it gives you. That's one of the things that I love about it, is that it's just a simple game, you know, and I'll get to that, I guess, when I get to the gameplay. But Like I said, so it looks stunning. The soundtrack is absolutely fantastic. There's different songs playing during almost every boss, I think, that are already stuck in my head, so I loved it there as well. And there's a really neat feature for the people that own a PS4 Pro, which is that you can play the game either in cinematic mode or performance mode. Cinematic mode pretty much puts it in a 1440p resolution, upscaled to 4K in 30 frames, while giving you some graphical enhancements, and it's a little sharper and stuff. While the performance mode, I think, goes back to just 1080p, looks a little worse, but there's really not much of a difference at all. While of course the big advantage is that you're going to be playing in 60 frames per second. And you know, don't get me wrong, if you're going to play this game on the original PS4 or in cinematic mode, that's completely fine and you can do that, and it probably won't make the experience any worse or something, but you'll probably know, you know, actually playing in the 60 frames mode, it's gonna be hard to go back, because that's what I tried to do. I played the whole thing in the 60 frames mode, and then going back to 30, yeah, it just starts feeling a lot. It feels worse in comparison, you know what I mean? So that 60 frames mode is definitely a very welcome advantage for people that own a PS4 Pro, so make sure you play it that way. But then getting to the gameplay. Like I said, that's the main reason why you're gonna want to play this game. And what I love about it is that it's simple. This is a game that doesn't try to do so many complicated things, that doesn't want to like stuff its world with objectives or things to do, side missions and stuff. No, it's a game that's about exploring this awesome, silent world while having these very impressive boss battles, and that's all that it does. And I love that about it, those simple type of games that just give me this 8-hour-like experience, and that impress you regardless with a lot of different stuff. They just try to do 1, 2, or 3 things, but they do those things very well, and that's exactly what Shadow of the Colossus is. So, gameplay-wise, it pretty much consists out of 2 different aspects. Like I said, the whole game revolves around beating these 16 colossi, so you're just constantly first traveling to one of the colossi, right? And so all that pretty much is you riding around on your horse, taking in the views, and trying to find the bosses. You can do that by pointing up your sword in the air, and it'll kind of guide you towards them, and that's really all that it comes down to. Like I said, because of the super impressive world and soundtrack and everything, it's a joy to do, simply said. Once you get to the actual boss fights, that's of course probably like the main part of the game, what it's all about. And even there, it kind of surprised me, because normally you would kind of expect that, oh, if you have a boss fight type game, then that means it's all about the action and about quick reaction times and yeah, stuff like that, right? But that's really not what it is either. This is a puzzle platforming game, and so really the challenge in this game is found in trying to find ways to actually beat these bosses. That's what it's all about. And you'll see that it has a really nice ramping up thing, actually, where the first couple of bosses are relatively easy. You'll figure them out very quick, which is, you know, kind of like climb up their back or whatever, and just stab them in one of their weak spots. That's how you ultimately will kill them, is by finding those weak spots. But as you get further and further into the game, you're gonna see that you get in very different like environments, deserts, water, stuff like that, and you really have to use those environments to your advantage at the same time. So there's a nice, like I said, ramping difficulty, and you have to think a bit more out of the box as far as how exactly am I going to tackle this boss, right? So I loved the gameplay in this game. It feels satisfying to play. It's just, you know, it's just a lot of fun, right? There are some downsides to it, and that's what I'll get to now, I guess, which mainly comes down to the value of the game. And so I don't know if it's a huge downside, because it's a very personal thing, and to me it's not really, because I love when a game is just 8 hours long, as long as that experience itself is really special and awesome, right? And that's what I mean. This game is about that length, 7 to 8 hours I would say, before you finally beat it, and then there's not a whole lot to do it anymore afterwards, because you'll know the world kind of out of your head, the whole map, you'll have probably explored by the end of it, and the boss fights themselves, they're the same thing every time. Like I said, the challenge is found in trying to figure out a way to beat them, right? And once you know that, the second time through, you're just gonna kind of like run through it without much challenge or new stuff to discover at all. And so that's kind of the problem with the game, is there's not a whole lot to do afterwards. They do have time trials, which you can do if you want to get to certain bosses and replay them very quickly. And I think, you know, if you do those time trials, you can unlock certain items which can make you stronger, or do more damage to bosses, but it's just not, like I said, you can probably already hear that by me describing it. It's not really a reason to like replay the game. There's quite some trophies in there which are very time consuming, and that's the main reason why I've been playing it like 3 times and beaten already 3 times or something. But that's the weird thing, is that even though I have been doing the same thing, I've still been having a lot of fun with it. It's just a very fun game to play, if you'd ask me. So even replaying it and doing the exact same thing, I've just been having fun with it, like I said. I can't really describe why, but it's just the experience itself is very enjoyable. It's not super stressful at all, because like I said, there are no enemies in the world, you know, general enemies or something at all. It's just, you know, riding around and then doing the boss fights, for which you can also take your time and just, yeah, they're not super hectic at all whatsoever. So that's what I love about this game. It's a very silent, subtle game, like I said. There's some other stuff that, you know, you could critique about it, which is that I had a couple of minor glitches mainly. So at one point, one of the bosses disappeared and I had to reload my save file. And, you know, like do the whole traveling pod all over again, so I wasted about 20 minutes, and that's always annoying when it happens to you. And I got stuck in certain objects, but the nice thing about that is actually the fact that, contrary to most games where if you get stuck in an object you're not gonna get out of it, in this one I was able to just literally like jump out, and yeah, that was pretty much it. So it really wasn't in any way, you know, a very bad glitches that were happening whatsoever, and maybe those will get patched in a day 1 patch, of course. And you could also argue that the animations are pretty much kept almost the same from the original, and they do feel somewhat clunky, I guess. It's a responsive game nonetheless, don't get me wrong. Last Guardian had many issues on the gameplay side, and this one only really has just some like weird animations, I guess, which you just have to kind of get used to. Like I said, the game is responsive, so ultimately you completely get used to that, and it isn't a pain or something at all, so really not too much to worry about. But coming to the conclusion, I guess, of this review, what can I say? Shadow of the Colossus is simply an awesome game. This is a game that, like I said, if you've never played this before, it's an awesome experience. About 7 to 8 hours long, but very impressive, and every minute of the way through, for only $40, I think they're selling it for. If you have played the game before and already loved it, of course, on the PS2 or PS3, then this is totally something that you're gonna want to check out, because the upgrades that have been made, especially in the graphical department, are completely what you want out of it. This game looks exactly up to the standards of what you expect from a PS4 game nowadays, so make sure you check it out regardless of that. That's pretty much all that I really have to share about it. I loved it. I'm still gonna keep playing it. I've almost got the Platinum Trophy, and I'm definitely gonna make sure that I do ultimately get it. So, with that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you planning on picking it up or not? What did you think of the gameplay and the review itself? Do you have some additional questions? Because you can always ask me those, and I'll make sure to answer them in the comments, of course. And then for now, really hope you enjoyed it. Leave a quick like to help support my channel, or support me on patreon.com/robingaming if you want me to keep making videos like this. And then for now, that was it. So thanks for watching, everybody, and hope to see you again next time.